Hi, in this tutorial I will give an overview of how you can run your .NET MAUI application on your Android device. So we will create a basic .NET MAUI app in Visual Studio and C# and test the application we create on a physical Android device. So here's a short introduction of this tutorial. First a short introduction, then we will create a .NET MAUI Hello World app. Then we will test the app using the Android emulator. Then we will test the app by connecting an Android device to the PC where we are using a USB cable. Then we will deploy the app to a physical Android device using a so-called APK distribution file package. So we start with a short introduction. As mentioned, we are going to create a .NET MAUI app. So .NET MAUI is a framework for creating application for smartphones. It's developed by Microsoft, and you use Visual Studio and the C# programming language. So when we create and program the app in Visual Studio and using the C# programming language, we typically want to test it on a physical Android device, and here we have different options. When you use Visual Studio and the .NET MAUI framework, you have an Android emulator that you can use to test the application. The Android emulator is just a simulator in software that simulates a real Android device. So that's the first step that you should use. Use the Android emulator to test your application. The next step would be to test the app on a physical Android device. Then you can connect your Android device to the PC that where you are running Visual Studio and the .NET MAUI app project, and then you can connect the Android device using a USB cable to the computer, or you can also use Wi-Fi. The next step would be to publish an Android app for so-called ad hoc distribution by creating a so-called Android package or short APK. This can be used to distribute your application to different persons. You can send this APK package on email, or you can make it available for download on a web page, etc. The final step would be to publish your Android app to Google Play, which is the official app store from Google. In order to do that, you need to make a so-called Android app bundle package. You also need to pay a small fee. It's $20 in order to be able to publish your application to this Google Play store. So let's start by creating a simple or basic Hello World application using this .NET MAUI framework in Visual Studio. Before you start, make sure that you have installed this .NET MAUI workload in Visual Studio. So basically search for Visual Studio installer in the Windows search and make sure that you have selected this .NET MAUI workload. And if you have installed this workload as part of your Visual Studio installation, when creating a new project, you should be able to see this .NET MAUI app project, which we are going to use in order to create a .NET MAUI application. Okay, now I started Visual Studio, and then I just select Create a New Project, and then this .NET MAUI app project should be part of your selection. If you don't find it, just search for .NET MAUI here in the search field, and then select it, click Next, and then make sure to select a proper name. I can call it Hello World App or whatever, and then specific folder where I want to save the project, and then just click Next. Select the latest version of the framework and just deselect those two options, and then click Create. And it will take some seconds to create the project in Visual Studio with necessary folders and files. So after a few seconds, your project is up and running, and here you get just a startup message. You can just remove that one, and here you see the different folders and files. This main page .xaml file is the main file where you create the graphical user interface, and the main page xaml.cs is the code file where you create the actual C# code for your application. But basically we are just using this default Hello World application that is created for us in this default project. So basically here in this option here we have different options. We can run, since this is a cross-platform framework, we can create apps for Windows, Android, iOS, etc. But we will focus on Android, so then I just select the Android emulator, and then you have different options there. I just use the default option, select this one, and then just click here in order to run the application using the Android emulator. So typically it takes some seconds, and then the Android emulator are starting. We click here, allow USB debugging, then I just click allow, and then after a few seconds the application are up and running in the Android emulator. So here you see our default Hello World application is running inside the Android emulator. You can click here, and then you see every time you click on this button the application is updated. So this is the Android emulator which you can use to test our application during development. You can also use this live preview, where we see a live preview of our application. So those are handy to use during development and testing, but typically you also want to test our application on a real Android device. So the next step is to connect our Android device to the PC that is running the application in Visual Studio, and then connect the Android device to the PC using a USB cable. We could also have used Wi-Fi, but it's easier to use the USB cable. But before we do that, we need to enable the so-called developer mode. This is something we need to do on the physical Android device. Here I will just go through the necessary step. So you need to do that on these. You need to follow these steps on your physical Android device. So basically, go to the settings on your Android device. If you don't find settings, just search for it, and then search for About. And under About you find software information, and under software information you find a field for build number. So basically you need to click 7 times on the build number in order to enable so-called developer mode. And when you have enabled developer mode, you are able to connect your Android device to your computer using a USB cable. Also, one last thing, when you have enabled developer mode on your Android device, you also need to make sure that USB debugging is turned on. So if you don't find the developer options in your Android device, just search for it and make sure that this option USB debugging is selected. So now when you connect your Android device to the computer using a USB cable, this option should pop up, Android local devices, and then you should have a name here. That is the name of your physical Android device. In my case, I have a Samsung Android device, and then basically I'll just select this one, and then by clicking here I will be able to run the application itself on my physical Android device. So now I have turned on developer mode on my Android device. I also turned on USB debugging and have plugged in the USB cable on my computer. And then you see here in the option here, you get access to this one, Android local devices, and then my physical Android device pops up here. So then I just select it and then just click on the button to run it. And now instead of running the application in the Android emulator, the application will be run physically on my Android device. So it takes some time to deploy it. You see here in the bottom, it is now deploying the application to my Samsung Android device. So let's just wait a few seconds. So after a few seconds, the application itself is now distributed or deployed to my physical Android device, and now I'm able to actually see the app on my physical Android device. It's not so easy to see here in the video, but now I can click on the button on my physical Android device, and in order to see it, you can also see it here in the live preview here. So every time I click on the button, you know, I clicked 8 times. So now I click on the button on the application on my physical device. You see that is actually up and running. So that's how you can test your application on your physical Android device by just enable developer mode on your Android device and plug it into your computer using a USB cable. So now we started by creating a .NET MAUI application. We tested on the Android emulator. We also was able to connect our Android physical Android device to our computer and test it on the real or actual Android device. So the next step now would be to create a so-called APK package, which we can use to distribute our application on different Android devices. So then basically we use Visual Studio to create an APK package, and then we can send this package on email. We can put it on a web page, etc. So the person or persons that want to use our application can basically just click on the link and download the APK package in order to install the Android app. So typically the first thing we want to do is to change the default icon for our application. You find it here under resources and app icon, and here you find app icon.svg, which is the default icon for our application, but we want to change it. So assume I have another icon I want to use. So basically you can just create your own icons or just find some icons from internet. So I have an app icon I want to use here. Then I just basically just put it into this folder and I have it here, this one. So that's the new app icon I want to use for my application. So it looks something like this, just a blue background with this white check mark. So our new app icon, it has the same name. Of course, you can change it to whatever you like. Just use the same name, but the extension is different. So this was the original one, and this is the new one. And then in order to use the new one instead of the old one, I just need to double click here on the project. Go to the proper location where I find app icon, and here you see the specific path and file name for the app icon. So here's the default one. I just want to use this app icon.png instead. So now I'm going to use this one instead. So I just save this one and close it. So now we have this default Hello World application. We have changed the app icon, and now we are ready to start creating this APK package. You just need to make sure that this by just right click here on the project, click properties, and then we need to make sure that we go down here to Android. Since you are deploying for Android, we need to select options, and then we need to just make sure that APK is our choice here. If you select bundle, it will be distributed to the Apple Play store, but we want to make an APK package, so make sure that APK is selected here in these two drop-down menus. So that's the first step. Make sure that APK is selected. And the next step here now is to select release instead of debug. So typically during development and testing we use the debug option, but now we want to create an APK package, so then we need to select the release option here, and then next we just right click on the project or the solution, and then we select this so you need to right click on the project, in this case Hello World App, and then just select publish in order to start the process of generating this APK package. So the first step is to just basically generate the APK package. It takes some seconds. So after a few seconds the APK package is generated, and then the next step would be to select this distribute button. So just click on this one, and then in the next window you have some different options. Since we now are going to create an ad hoc deployment using an APK package, we need to select the ad hoc option here. If we should distribute to Google Play, we needed to select this option. But here we select ad hoc, so select this option, and then this window pops up. And the next step now is to sign our package to make sure it's a valid developer that has created this application. So just basically here select Hello World, which is the name of our application, click the plus sign, and then we need to fill out some information here. Lots of fields that you can fill out, but the first step is to fill out alias, which is basically the name of the application. So then Hello World App or something. Then we need to specify a password, and then we make sure to select a password and remember it for later use. So then I just create a password and confirm it like this. And then you have different options that you need to fill out here. It's enough to fill out your name. In my case, just fill out my name. If you're part of an organization, etc., you can fill out the other information as well. So basically you can fill out all the information if you want to, but at least you need to fill out the alias, which is the name of the application, your password, and your name, like this. And then this create button should be available, and then you can click on this one. And then you see it pops up here in the list. Now we have this Hello World app. And the next step now is just to click Save As in order to save the APK file to your hard drive. So here in this window you can select the name of the APK file. So this is the default name. I can just remove it and then just write hello world app.apk, which would be the name of the APK file, and then just click Save. And then in order to sign the APK file, I just need to use my password, which we just entered. and click OK. And after a few seconds, the generated APK file will be created for us in the default location. And then basically I can just click Open Distribution here to open the file explorer. And then you see this hello world app.apk file has been created here in this folder. And now we can either send this APK file on email, we can upload it to a web page, we can put it in Dropbox or OneDrive folder and make it available for those who want to install and start using the application. So let's see how we can distribute this APK file to a web page. So then I just copy the APK file. I have created a folder here. I just called it deployment. And here in a subfolder Android, I just put the APK file here. And then I just create a basic web page. I can call it whatever I like. I call it android.html. And let's just open it with Visual Studio Code. So it's a simple HTML web page, just saying here this is an Android app. Here you can download my Android app, and then I just create a link to the APK file. So I put the hello world app.apk file in a subfolder called Android, and then basically when we upload this HTML file to the web server and the APK file itself, then we can go to our Android device, open the web page, click on the link in order to install and start using the app on our Android device. So then I just use a FTP program. I just go to my local folder here. In my temporary folder, I have my deployment folder. Here I have the web page we just created. So I just upload it to my web server and also upload the subfolder with the APK file, which you have here. So I just upload it like this. And now I can open this web page on the Android device. Of course, you can now just open it on my computer, but of course you need to open it on your Android device using the built-in web browser on your Android device. Specify the name of the web page. In my case, this so that's the name of the web page, android.html, like this. And then you see I basically just created a simple HTML web page, Android app. Here you can download my Android app. And then if you are now opening this web page on your Android device, you can just click on it, and then the application will be installed on your Android device. So that's all. So now you know how you can test your application that you have created in .NET MAUI in Visual Studio. Test it on your physical Android device. So typically you start with the Android emulator to test and debug your application. Then next you can enable developer mode on your Android device in order to test the application on the Android device itself by connecting your Android device to your computer in order to test it. Then finally, then you can create an APK file which you can use to distribute your application to others, so they can either download it from a web page or you can send it on email, etc. So that's all. Thank you and goodbye.